What is up, guys? We are back again with another video, and it feels like it has been an absolute age since I did my last vlog, but we are here again. And in today's video we're going to discuss how me as an entrepreneur in 2020 during a global pandemic reduced my stress levels. Okay, so some of the things that I'm going to discuss today are pretty generalizable, and some of them are more specific to me, right? But I hope by the end of this video you get an idea of, okay, I could do these things to reduce my stress levels overall and be in a better position, especially as the recording of this last night they announced in Ireland that we're going to go back into a lockdown. And especially now with businesses locking down, entrepreneurs like myself, we're in a position where it's like our businesses are going to be impacted pretty heavily in the lead up to Christmas. But not only that, obviously the weather is getting worse, it's getting darker out, it's getting colder out, people's mental health and everything is going to be affected by another lockdown. So I wanted to record a video where we go through some just basic stress management practices and tips that hopefully will keep you in a good position for the coming weeks. So let's get into them. So the first thing that I did to help with managing my stress over this whole pandemic, especially trying to run a business, trying to finish college, doing all the stuff that I have in my day-to-day life, right? The first thing, and it's the key to this whole thing, and people, you look at any stress management video, any video that's in the same kind of genre, they will point this out, and that is planning, right? If you're not planning, like even if you look at like psychology, a lot of the stuff that they discuss, it comes back to planning. Right? So if you're not planning and you're not creating a plan of action, that you don't have to follow it perfectly, but if you don't have a plan of action, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure straight off the bat, right? And obviously this is going to be different depending on your exact situation, but this could come down as simple as planning out your meals for the week, planning out your training for the week, planning out what your day is going to look like in terms of what time you're getting up at, what time you're going to do this workout, whatever it is. Now, obviously, we all have different lives, we all have different things going on. However, we can all sit down on a Sunday night or whenever and plan out the week ahead of us, And again, it's not going to be perfect. Nobody ever gets their plan perfect. That doesn't mean that planning is not effective, right? So sit down, make a plan of action, make out what you're going to do on this day, what the week is going to look like, and what the next few weeks are going to look like. That, in and of itself, if you take nothing away from this, and again, I know you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but if you take nothing away from this video except for that, you will be in a much better position in terms of actually managing your stress, right? However, what I wanted to say is further to just generic planning, like that's a fairly generic recommendation. And one of the things that you can do within this is pay yourself first, right? And what I mean by that is, we all schedule out the things that we need to do in terms of we need to work, we need to get food, need to cook food, do whatever it is. These are all the things that we need to do to live our lives. Especially again, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are dealing with more stress than we'll say the average person, you need to do these different things, and it can be you can find yourself in a situation where you plan out all the hard things that you need to do, but you fail to plan out any of or any activities that you find rejuvenating. You don't plan out your hobbies, or if you're in like the same sphere as me, this kind of health and fitness niche, your hobbies are basically this kind of quasi like it's a competitive endeavor with yourself, so it's not really as rejuvenating as you could potentially have an endeavor, but also it's kind of like, oh well, I should record a video, or I'm going to be talking to people in the gym or whatever. Not that we've been allowed to do that during this pandemic, but you get the point, right? So spending some time and actually planning out activities during the week that actually leave you rejuvenated and leave you feeling good and ready to actually tackle the other stuff that you need to do, that actually sets you up far better to manage your stress than if you were to just plan out all the the to-do stuff, the hard stuff that you need to do, right? And I used to be in the mindset that like, why would I plan out these activities when I could just actually be doing more work at this time, and I failed to realize that you can't pour from an empty glass, right? So like there's a reason why they tell you to put your mask on first before you put the masks on your children if the airplane is falling out of the air, because you can't help someone if you don't help yourself, right? And that might seem a little bit selfish when you first encounter it. However, it actually sets you up to be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in this life, so look after yourself first, and that'll actually multiply the work that you can do going forward, right? So plan out the activities that you want to do in terms of the ones that rejuvenate you and leave you in a better position to tackle whatever it is that's going to come your way during the week, whatever, right? I personally like to schedule these out, a little bit further apart. I do a Wednesday and a Saturday. I like to have things on those days scheduled out so that I'm like, this is the time that I'm actually going to relax. I'm not going to think about work, Now I might do some work in the morning, but come afternoon, come evening time, I'm not doing any work. I don't think about it. I basically act as if I don't have a business. Now, you might not be able to be in that position. The thing that's stressing you out might be your kids or something, and you obviously can't just like offload them for a couple of hours, but potentially you can. Potentially you can do that. Potentially you can go do something that you enjoy that also involves the kids, which is one of the things that I'm going to bring up later on, which is, going out in nature and stuff like that, right? So that is something that, again, super important to take into account when you are actually looking at planning things out, is planning things out and taking into account the stuff that rejuvenates you, and then actually planning on when you are going to do that throughout the week, because we can all get caught up in this system where we just work, and then all our downtime, we don't actually have anything planned, and all of a sudden it becomes a session of just scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media it is that you engage in, and that doesn't leave you rejuvenated. Quite often, especially during this whole pandemic time when, the news is, crazy, you can be in a position where scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, you actually feel worse out the other side of it. You don't feel rejuvenated. You feel more stressed, So that's not something that we want to have, right? So plan stuff that's going to rejuvenate you and actually have that planned in throughout your week. The next thing that you can do to really help manage your stress levels and further to that actual planning is creating a to-do list that you can actually accomplish, right? I don't know how many entrepreneurs, business people, whatever, even just average day-to-day people that I've talked to that create these to-do lists that are never accomplishable, right? They're not actually, you're not able to actually finish them in a day, So you always feel at the end of the day that you're like, well, I haven't accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish during that day, right? Now, this is something that leaves you in a stressed position because you're thinking then going to sleep, oh, I need to do this, I should have got that done today, or I was supposed to do this and I didn't get a chance, so that's going to bleed in tomorrow, but tomorrow I have these other things that I need to do, and you're just always in this heightened stress environment, in this heightened stress state, because your to-do list is never finished, right? Now, your to-do list, especially if you are running a business, is never actually going to be finished. It's like you're planning things ahead 20, 30, 40 weeks in time, whenever. It could be 5 years, 10 years, whatever, So your to-do list is never going to be finished because, your business is never going to be finished. And this is, again, the same as if you're doing a college degree or, working in the actual work environment. There's always something else that you're building towards, and you're kind of like, my to-do list of things that need to be done to get to that are, I'm not finished at the end of the day, There's these multi-week, multi-year things that, I can never actually just tick that off my to-do list, right? However, we all know that, right? So that's fine. Like, leave that to the side and realize that you can create to-do lists for what needs to be done today, right? These are the tasks that need to be done today. And if they can't be done in a singular day, then yeah, you can spread them out over multiple days, but I would still break it up and be like, this is exactly what I'm going to try accomplish in this day, right? And that becomes a process of refinement, because you might realize that, oh, I'm only able to get this amount of work done in a day versus, 5 hours of work done, proper work done, whereas I have 8 hours allocated, and this is just not going to be effective because I'm not actually getting the work done by the end of the day, because my time skills, my management skills, my time management skills even aren't where I want them to be, right? So again, you're going to have to refine this over time. However, you'll get to a point where you're able to look at the day ahead, what you have planned, what you need to get done, and you're able to create a to-do list and actually have it accomplishable by the end of the day. And that single thing will leave you in a far more rejuvenated, less stressed state by the end of the day, because you're able to look at your to-do list and go, yeah, I actually finished everything on my to-do list. Tomorrow is a fresh day. I can go to sleep thinking, well, everything is done for the day. So being a little bit more kind to yourself with your to-do list day to day, and actually having a to-do list that you can tick the boxes off and actually finish, like that's game changing, right? And again, it's something that I wish I learned earlier in my career, my life overall, like having a to-do list that doesn't have these things left on it for weeks on end, you know? Like, yeah, cool, make a week to-do list or a month to-do list, but on your day-to-day to-do list, these things that need to be finished today, that's all you have on your to-do list. You can do 1 hour of work towards the bigger project or whatever it is, but that gets ticked off at the end of the day rather than just, you know, the project title and that's it. It's not going to be ticked off for 4 months, you know? Like, that doesn't leave you in a good position at night when you're trying to go to sleep and you're thinking like, oh, well, I have to do this and I have to plan this and I should have got this done. Like, you want to have a to-do list completed and you go, right, I'm actually able to relax then at the end of the day or whenever it is that you plan on relaxing. Yeah, further to that, if you have an actual to-do list, like have a singular focus, singular task focus with that to-do list. Don't be going, all right, cool, I have 20 things on my to-do list. I'm going to try to do them all at once. Do them one at a time, allocate the time appropriately, prioritize and execute, and actually get things done on your to-do list. Depending on what you are or what you're like as a person, whether you prefer the kind of more snowball or avalanche method of getting things done, you know, maybe you go, I'm going to tackle all these smaller things so that I know I have 4 or 5 things ticked off the box and they're done for my to-do list. They're done, and that can give you momentum and make you feel like, oh yes, I'm actually in a great position going forward for the rest of the day. Whereas other people like to just tackle the bigger thing and, you know, get that done, and then they can get all these little smaller things. So it really depends on what you're like as a person, which method you prefer, and then just doing that, right? But having that thought process of I'm only going to do one thing at a time, it really does dramatically reduce your overall stress, because you're not like a headless chicken running around going, oh, I should do this, but I have to do this and I have to do this. No, sit down, plan out your day, be like, this is my to-do list, this is when I'm going to do this thing, and then actually just singularly focus on that one thing. The next thing I suggest doing when you are trying to work on your overall stress is actually improving your aerobic conditioning, right? Now, this can obviously go too far into the extreme when you are, you know, doing hours upon hours of aerobic conditioning and that's actually leading to your stress, or again, you start, you know, competing in some sort of aerobic sport and the competition environment itself is the actual stressor in your life. Now, that can obviously be the case. However, for most people, their aerobic conditioning is pretty bad. And I personally, like, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I do like resistance training, I like all that stuff. I do conditioning myself in terms of, you know, what's called strength and conditioning, if you will, more higher intensity stuff that it tends to look like. For me, that didn't get me to a position with my aerobic conditioning where I felt like I was getting all the benefits of being aerobically fit. Like, I could go walk up mountains, do whatever I wanted to do. However, you know, my resting heart rate wasn't where I wanted it to be, and working on my aerobic fitness has really dramatically dropped down my resting heart rate. Now it's in the kind of 42, 45, in around that place, and that has dramatically improved my stress resilience, but also just my stress day to day, because my heart rate's not, you know, beating out of my chest going like whatever 60 beats per minute, even though obviously that's not a huge, most people are walking around 70 to 90, but the more aerobically fit you are, the better you are able to handle these stressors, right? So that's something that I really worked on over the last year during this whole pandemic. Obviously it gave me a great incentive to do it because, you know, gyms were closed, etc. So, you know, working on my aerobic conditioning was, you know, easier to do. You can go for a run or a cycle or whatever, and it has really paid dividends. And that's something I really recommend people do if they are under a lot of stress. And again, I know it can seem like, oh, I'm going to have to spend this time doing an hour of aerobic conditioning, we'll say twice per week, and that's going to dig into the time that I can actually be working more effectively. However, it sets you up so much better to actually deal with the stresses that you have, you know? So, and it's definitely something that I would work on if you don't already. Now, there's a number of ways you can do this. Personally, I like actually just, you know, having some sort of cardio machine that I can do my cardio on. That's a lower impact. Like, I like the cross trainer. However, gyms are closed down from this Wednesday onwards, and that's not going to be accessible to me. So I'm going to have to go out running, which does potentially impact on, you know, my joints and stuff a little bit more. So there is a little bit more stress on those joints and those structures versus these low impact methods. However, depending on your fitness level, you could get a huge response or a huge return on investment just by going for more walks throughout the day, which obviously then improves your aerobic conditioning for one, but also your blood glucose levels, your overall stress levels, your catecholamine synthesis, synthesis expression, all that kind of stuff, and really put you into a better stress management state in terms of you're going to be less stressed day to day. So that's something that I definitely would recommend if you're not doing, which feeds into the next. If you can break up your days with walks, that's also really beneficial, because no one can really work for 8 hours straight through, or at least most people can't. And if possible as well, like getting out into nature, that can be really beneficial. Now I'm lucky, I live basically up a mountain, so like I can get out into nature like in 2 minutes, but I know that's not the case for everyone. It's probably a bit windy here now, but yeah, I know it's not the case for everyone, but if it is possible for you, getting out into nature at least a couple of times per week is really beneficial for your mental health, but also just your general stress management overall. Like getting some sunlight exposure. I know we're coming into the winter months, and especially like I'm saying, get out into nature, and we live in Ireland, and it pisses rain every 5 minutes, and that's not always possible. But if that is something that you can do, get out into nature, break up your day with some walks, not only are you going to contribute to your overall activity levels, help with your body composition, general health and all that, you are going to help with managing stress overall, which is quite beneficial when we are dealing with a pandemic. And obviously this is one of the activities that you are able to do, or rather our benevolent overlords has allowed us to do during this pandemic. Obviously you have to stay within a certain distance of your house at the moment. They're the recommendations that we have in Ireland anyway, but yeah, if you are within walking distance of some sort of nature, get out, enjoy it. And if you're not, even just going out walking on a random pavement, I know down by your local shop or whatever it is, getting out for some walks, getting some activity, getting some blood flow, it really does help with your overall stress management and your overall health in general. Because again, nobody can sit down for 8, 12, 20 hours, whatever it is that you are required to do, and just be able to be hyper focused that entire time. So breaking up your day, getting out into the wind, but yeah, breaking up your day and getting some activity in, it really is beneficial for your overall health. And then further to that, getting your sleep sorted is really beneficial. And if you have been following our articles recently, we've done an entire sleep series, so I'm not going to rehash all the information here, but they're going to be linked below if you want to have a read of those. We'll probably do a podcast or two on the topic as well. But yeah, getting your sleep sorted is obviously going to be beneficial if you're trying to deal with stress over this whole time period, right? And one of the things that I've done recently to really help improve this, especially because we're indoors a whole host more now than we've ever been, especially for me now. I don't have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to go to, and especially from Wednesday onwards, I don't have the gym to go to. And also I finished college this year, so I don't have college to go to either. So I'm basically stuck at home, and what had happened was I effectively ended up drinking like 4, 5, 6 cups of coffee per day. So I cut that all out, and that's massively improved my resting heart rate, naturally enough. But it's also had a huge knock-on effect of improving my sleep. And my sleep was already good to begin with, so I can only imagine if your sleep is poor, how dropping out caffeine is only going to benefit that. And that is something that we're going to write about in future. And then finally, one of the things that has really helped me manage my stress over the last few months is deleting social media, right? And I know that's not possible for everyone, and I could argue that it's not possible for me because I have a business that I run, and some parts of it are run online. So I am somewhat of a hypocrite in saying this, because I do still have some social media, such as Facebook, because we run our Facebook forum. So I haven't deleted all of my social media. However, completely minimizing that, reducing my intake of random noise, has really benefited my overall stress management. And it is something that generally helps with stress management across the board, especially in this day and age where everything is about clickbait and trying to be the most out there with their headline, and people don't even read the article then, they just read the headline, and we get in what we have in society right now, all of this turmoil, all of this stress, which, you know, if we're trying to manage our stress levels, it's not exactly beneficial. So I would probably recommend, you know, deleting social media if possible. The only reason I would keep it is if you are feeling, you know, more socially isolated, it could be beneficial for that. However, if you do find yourself wasting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours per day on social media, you know, there's probably better use of your time overall. Anyway, that's it, guys. A few of the topics that we brought up in this video, I'm going to expand on in future videos. So if you would like to hear more stuff like this, you know, like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz, and we'll see you in the next video.